All right, Ashley, welcome to the studio. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me. This is my first podcast. It's pretty exciting.
Well, you know what? This is actually the first time that we've ever done a podcast where I have not met you or talked to you prior to today.
Well, I hope I'm not a disappointment so far, Jake.
You won't be. But we will get into the business of this conversation in just a minute. But first of all, so Ashley, you own a restaurant, a very, very nice restaurant, Peachtree City. So you were not a stranger to the official beer of the Beer and Business Podcast.
Oh, of course. A huge supporter of Line Creek. Yes. We've got 2 tap handles on right now at our restaurant, and we love all their beer.
Yeah. So we actually brought 2 in just for you.
Thank you.
So Conserve Georgia, which I happen to love. And why am I the only one drinking this?
No, I love that. I'm going to switch to that next time. I do love the chinchillin, though. I haven't had that in a while, and it's just so cold and refreshing.
Yeah.
I finished mine before we even started.
I just ordered a keg of that today, though. So it'll
did you?
Yes. It'll be getting some representation on our taps in a few days.
Yeah. It's a honey rye blonde, the Conserve Georgia. So if you have not had it yet.
And like what, 10% of the proceeds go to Southern Land Conservation, I think.
$1 for every 6-pack.
There you go.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then you guys are drinking Chinchillin, which is actually a session IPA. So often you've got beer companies now saying like, oh, this is a session beer. It's like 7%. What is this one, 5?
It's 5, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
So refreshing.
For a low calorie, low gravity IPA, it's delicious.
Yeah,
so,
it's a patio pounder.
Patio pounder. That's
patio pounder.
Wow, that's a new one for my vocabulary.
I didn't coin that, guys. I did not coin that. People say that in the biz. Yeah.
Hey, listen, I don't need to invent the wheel. I can steal it.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
Yes. Well, folks, make sure you support the official beer, the Beer and Business Podcast, Line Creek Brewing. Mm-hmm. Go out to the tap room. It's open. Buy beer at your local store. They're pretty awesome.
That's right.
So, Ashley, you own a restaurant. The restaurant's called Palmer's.
Correct.
Beautiful place. Very nice. You've got indoor, outdoor seating, beautiful bar.
An herb garden.
Yeah. How long have you been in business?
We have, it was 4 years in March.
4
so
years.
It was kind of an anticlimactic 4 years because we were shut down. Yeah.
Kind of a bad anniversary month.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't really have the celebration that we had previously anticipated, but we celebrated quietly while we were packing up to-go boxes.
Oh, geez. So I'm really excited to have you on the show because since all this COVID stuff has started, I've wanted to talk to somebody that owns a restaurant and somebody that owns a successful restaurant that knows the business, that can talk about it. Because, guys, there's been certain industries that have been disproportionately hit by the shutdown and by the health effects of COVID.
Restrictions.
Really? Restaurants are...
No shit.
Yeah, I know. Mr. Obvious today.
Wow.
Newsflash.
Yeah, so we start out with me saying the most obvious thing. Okay, but seriously, we've wanted to have somebody on here to talk about what it's like to own a restaurant because it's, first of all, I think owning a restaurant...
In good times.
Don't take this the wrong way. I think it's freaking crazy. There's probably something not right up here, Ashley. I'm just saying.
Definitely. And if there wasn't something not right before, there really is something not right now.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's a crazy business.
60% of all restaurants fail within the first year, somewhere around that number.
I think so, yeah. The restaurant business kind of gets in your blood, though, and once you fall in love with it, you just can't. Even if you get out of it, you want to get back in it. You're constantly thinking about new restaurant concepts, and that's sort of my story.
And you've been in the restaurant business for a while, right?
Yes. Well, so out of college, I was a food broker in Atlanta, and then
what is a food broker?
Good question. What is a food broker? A food broker is kind of the middleman between the distributor and the manufacturer. So you're basically selling the food to the restaurants and educating them about it. Nothing too glamorous, but it's fun if you like food. Gotcha. But for me, the restaurant business is all about the people. That's what I love the most about it. I just love, like, nothing makes me happier than to walk through my restaurant and see people having fun and enjoying each other and all over good food. So
it's got to be rewarding.
Yeah, nice. It really is. It's fun.
So did you start a restaurant before Palmer's?
Well, so when I moved to Peachtree City in 1995, long time ago, I was married, and my husband, who's also a food broker, is we had always been talking about, we talked so often about the fact that it was kind of a food desert. There was really were no good restaurants in Fayette County. And we had moved from Atlanta where we had great food at our disposal. And so we talked all the time about opening a restaurant. Finally did it. We opened a place in Tyrone called Downtown Grill. Mm-hmm. We opened in, I think, 2008, which was right when the recession was hitting.
Oh, perfect timing.
Yeah, isn't that awesome?
You got really good timing.
Yeah, I know, seriously. But
take out a second mortgage on the house. Let's open this restaurant.
Yeah.
Oh, where'd our equity go?
Yeah. But oddly, we weren't too affected by that whole recession, and we built up quite a following at that restaurant. So it was great. But then I don't know if you want me to go on right now and talk about that, or
I'm just curious to how long you've been in this business. And I mean, obviously you've been in and around this business for quite a while.
Yes, since 1994, since I got out of college. So yes.
So here's what I'd like you to do. First of all, because I want to kind of pave the foundation of this conversation. You and I were talking before the show, and what is the average margin that a restaurant operates on?
About 5%. The margins are small.
5%.
Yes.
You would get thrown out of Shark Tank for that margin.
Yeah.
They would laugh at you.
I know.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
So as we talk about how this COVID stuff has impacted, the restaurant industry, and as Darren said, the failure rate for new businesses is really high. Well, it's because even a really successful, really, really good restaurant operates on razor thin margins.
Absolutely.
Which is crazy. I mean, 5%, like if you've never owned a business with payroll and an adult business, it's, we're really putting money into it. Like 5% is nuts. That means cash flow is always top of mind.
Absolutely.
That's just insanity. That's why I said I think something's wrong with you.
Well, yeah. And as I mentioned before, people will when they see that we have an hour wait, most nights of the week, people say to me all the time, you guys must be printing money. And I laugh. I'm like, we are absolutely not printing money, because do you have any idea what our operating costs are? So it's, it's definitely can be deceiving.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, it's nuts to me. So, I wanted to start with that foundation, because what happened when COVID hit, first of all, restaurants were non-essential. So dining rooms closed. Mm-hmm. And we're a little isolated here in Georgia, because in the state of Georgia, things have been a little bit more relaxed, but we'll get into that in a bit. But for a period of time, you guys were just closed and doing takeout only.
We were. So I'd say for about 7 weeks, we did takeout only. And I remember distinctly when we decided to close before we were even forced to close, just because we felt like it was the right thing to do. And then about 3 days after we decided to close, the restaurants were mandated to close. So really the thing that stands out most in my mind about the COVID period and during the shutdown is how many difficult decisions we had to make. We didn't, it was all new territory. It was our first pandemic. So we really had no idea what to do, what our next move was going to be. So we really just had we had a lot of powwows to figure out, okay, where are we going to go from here? And then 2 days later, okay, where are we going to go from here? And then there's the filing the PPE, there's filing unemployment for our employees who are no longer making money. There were just a series of very difficult decisions, but ultimately we decided to be open 6 days a week, 4 to go, a curbside pickup. We opened at 4:00 and we're open till about 9. And we were blown away by how much the community supported us. It allowed us to keep the lights on. We were able to keep quite a few employees employed, and the community was just extremely generous. I was blown away. People would come and tip $100 on their $50 to go order. Wow. And we pooled all the tips among the staff, including the kitchen. So it was incredible. There were some nights that there were $600 in tips, almost every night. And we would split it between, the 8 staff members that were working that night. And it was just incredible to see the community just rally behind us. Wow. That being said, I'm sure people also got a little bit tired of cooking. So I'm not going to give myself too much credit on that. But
well, let me back up. Okay. Cause there's a couple of things that I want to pull out of what you just said. So first of all, you talked about the shutdown as though it's past tense.
Right.
We were in this shutdown for a period of 2 months. There are still states that the restaurants are still shut down.
We're bracing ourselves, Jake. I really, we're in a very precarious time right now. And as much as we're enjoying this success that we've had for the past 6 weeks that we've been reopened, which by the way, I will mention that we reopened mid-May. So about 2 weeks after Kemp said we could reopen. We took our time doing it just because we wanted to make sure we were just respecting everybody's level of comfort. But the fact that we have such a big patio, I really truly believe that gives people, even the most fearful, an extra feeling of comfort. But it's a scary time right now because I don't know what's going to happen with if cases keep spiking. Georgia might pull back and close the restaurants. And then also there's the whole, if one of our employees gets COVID, if one of our employees tests positive for COVID, we'll shut the restaurant down for a number of days, have it deep cleaned, and then test everybody and then reopen again. But guess what? That could happen again a week later. So that's us. That's every restaurant right now. I think that there's a real spike in cases among people in their early 20s, which is usually the age range of servers. So you can't control what your staff does in their off time. So it's just it's a very precarious time, and I'm bracing myself for what's going to come next, but living in the present and just doing the best we can while we're open right now.
So here's something that is, I'm not going to name names when I say this, but I was talking to somebody during the shutdown, somebody that I know pretty well. And we were talking about restaurants because I was, from the very beginning, I've been very protective of small business. I mean, that's what this podcast is all about. It's about helping entrepreneurs, and we care deeply about everybody's success. If you're listening, we want you to be wildly successful. And I was worried about what this meant for small businesses, especially restaurants. I was talking to somebody about this, and she's like, "Yeah, but they can do to-go orders, so they're fine."
Okay, Jake. Let me just.
He didn't say it.
I did
not say it.
Let me give you a little
She's looking at me.
snapshot.
She's giving me the look, and I didn't even say it. I'm just
Let me give you a little snapshot of how that works.
Please do.
Just not to throw out our numbers and talk business numbers, but just as an example, like on a Friday night in early April, we would have done about 14,000 in sales, and during this to-go period, we would do about 3,500. So, granted, our operating costs were a lot lower because we had 3 kitchen employees and 4 front of the house, but it was about a fourth. We did about a fourth in sales.
Well, let me stop you there.
Hold on. Can I say something else? The costs were exorbitant. Do you have any idea? First of all, COVID was not good for the environment. The amount of to-go packaging, it was hurting my heart. The amount of to-go boxes, straws, to-go silverware that we went through, bags. I can't even imagine how many forests were decimated due to the shutdown. So it was
somewhere there's an environmentalist crying right now.
Yeah, totally.
Ralph Nader's rolling over.
Seriously, yes.
No.
But I want to stop you there because not only were your revenues a fraction of what they were, but correct me if I'm wrong. I've never been in the restaurant industry, but your margins were probably much different too because don't you get a lot of your margin from, alcohol and bar sales?
Absolutely, we do. Yeah. So we did do to-go bottles of wine and to-go Lion Creek beer. But
there you go.
Yeah, there we go. A little plug.
I'm down with that.
You're welcome, Brian. But still, it was nothing like what it would have been.
Sure.
It was a fraction. I would just joke to people about COVID, the whole shutdown. Like we worked 3 times harder for a fourth of the revenue, and that's pretty much how it was. And we spent our time in the back boxing up to-go orders. And then, we really pride ourselves at Palmer's on having a relationship with our guests, and that's what we're all about. So it was fun actually getting to see our guests in the parking lot and bringing out their food to them. And it was funny, like on numerous occasions, I would say at least a couple times a week, our guests would have tailgate parties in our parking lot. So that was really cool. And they would run into each other. And, it was like I mentioned before, one of the happiest things that I experience at Palmer's is just seeing people have fun together and make memories and enjoy each other. And it was cool to see that in the parking lot, even on April 12th, in the middle of the shutdown.
Did you guys limit your menu?
Yes, Darren, we did. And that's another thing that helped us.
At least maintain certain margins?
Absolutely. Well, maintain margins and cut down on labor because the prep in our kitchen is exhaustive. And even now with being open now, we've cut a few labor intensive items off of our menu just to cut down on prep. But yes, we had a pared down menu as most restaurants did. And that's kind of a trend right now. Most restaurants have really dramatically pared down their menu during this time just to cut down on labor, because we're pretty fortunate in Georgia that the regulations aren't as strict, but in some states it's like 25% capacity or 50% capacity, and it's almost impossible to make a profit in the restaurant business at 50% capacity. So you really have to cut down on your kitchen labor, and in doing so, pare down your menu.
What about food supply chain? Because I know a lot of the grocery stores, they went bare. How did you guys deal with that?
Darren, how did we deal with it, or how are we still dealing with it? It's insane.
Answer both.
I will. Yes, we are major shortages, and I'm my business partner Billy. He does all the food ordering, and it takes him about 4 times longer to do the order than it used to. We get deliveries 3 days a week, and because half of what he's ordering is out of stock. Cheese is about to go sky high. Brisket tripled in price per pound. Burgers have tripled in price, and there's been a shortage. So luckily our distributor reps usually give us a heads up when something's about to become scarce. So we buy a ton of it, and we have to stick it in the freezer. But it's crazy, the supply chain shortages.
And are they telling you why?
Oh, well, yeah. Plant shut down. You saw the news stories about all the meat packing plants shut down. Right. Chicken, employees will get COVID at the plant and they'll shut the plant down. And it's a myriad of issues. Yeah.
So the stuff you see on the news actually affects the bottom line?
It does.
Wow.
Yes. Imagine that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, now they have special food brokers that pull up in the parking lot. Hey, lady, come on over here. Check out what I got in the back.
Open up your trench coat. Like,
look how
I got 80-20 mix right here.
Yeah. But I will say, well, and
this is leftover Chipotle romaine lettuce.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of restaurants did that during the whole shutdown because while grocery items were scarce, food distributors like Sysco's and the U.S. Foods were stocked full of product because restaurants all shut down. So all these Sysco's and U.S. Foods had refrigerators full of food that all of a sudden hotels and restaurants didn't need.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of restaurants and several local ones were actually making like a I grocery business out of them, which is great. I mean, do what you need to do. We never did that, but.
Have you, as far as your staff, like I'm sure you had to lay off people when you had to shut down?
We really did not have to lay off anybody.
Okay. So you retained. So you pretty much retained your.
We did.
Staff.
Our staff got. We're fortunate enough to get the unemployment through the government, so that was great. Yeah. But there were some that did not feel comfortable working even during the to-go period, so they just chose not to work and they just collected their government money, which is fine. And then others worked and made a good amount of money, as I mentioned previously. The generosity of this community and their tips, really, it was incredible.
Well, I want to preface something here because I think this is a really important point. So I'm going to toot your horn a little bit. You run a fantastic business, and the restaurant's amazing. The food's incredible.
Well, I'm quick to say myself and several others run a fantastic business, so I will not take full credit for that.
Fair
but
enough.
We have a great team. We have a really great team.
Fair enough, but you guys do a really, really good job. In your experience through COVID is not the norm in the restaurant industry.
I understand that. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is a really important point. And by the way, I think you guys deserve that. You run a really incredible business. But there's a lot of, like, for example, I know of a local restaurant that they started less than 2 years ago, place I really like to go. And as soon as the COVID shutdown hit, within, I think it was 3 weeks, they were done, closed, out of business for good. And it was really sad because it was one of those places that was packed every time you went in, always busy. But they were in that really critical period where I'm sure cash flow was really tight. They were still trying to pay off initial investments, all that kind of stuff. And just timing hit them and bang, that's all it took.
Yeah.
4 weeks. And, PPP hadn't kicked in yet because,
it was lagging.
I mean, gosh, government moves so fast.
You never got your check, did you?
I just gave up on it. I said, the hell with it, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah.
I got to say, though, in the government's defense, that was probably, this was their first pandemic as well. That had to be a little bit overwhelming, all the millions of applications they were getting.
Sure.
Well, when you have one person who wants to sign every check, or his name has to be on it.
That presents a problem.
Yes, you're right in that. But the problem is, I think a lot of people that have jobs that don't think about business owners they hear this stuff in the news and they're like, oh, well, what's the big deal? Businesses are taken care of.
Yeah.
And it's like, listen, there's a lot of business. The average cash flow for a business, in a small business in the U.S. is 45 days.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is for restaurants because I've never seen that stat. I've looked it up, but I got to imagine it's way lower than that.
5%.
I mean, I got to imagine.
That's
if I were to venture a guess, because not everybody's a good business owner, but if I were to venture a guess, I'd probably say that half the restaurants in the U.S. are close to week in terms of cash flow management.
That's probably true. I'm fortunate one of our partners is very conservative, so we had quite a cushion. So that really helped us out. It's crazy because we all tell our kids, you need to have, if you have teenage children or college children, you keep telling them, you need to have 6 months of cash flow. And they don't get it because they've never lived in, times like these. And now hopefully that message is becoming clear to the teenagers and the Z's of this world, but also to small businesses.
Sure.
How important that is. So we were fortunate that we had enough of a cushion to get us by.
But even when you guys went into shutdown mode and you were doing to-go orders and you had all the support from the community, the tailgate parties, the huge tips for the staff, even that wasn't normal.
Right. Well, let me tell you, Jake, I will say we have worked really hard to build a very loyal customer base at Palmer's, and I'm not saying we've always done everything right, but we work so hard to just foster that relationship and to build that trust, and I think people trust us, and I'm grateful for that. But we have worked very hard for it. There's always an owner at Palmer's, and you talked about the restaurant attrition rate, and I think a lot of time, much of the reason that so many restaurants don't make it is the owner's not present because nobody cares like the person that owns the restaurant. So when you have a restaurant that's being run by some 23-year-old punk that really doesn't care, your restaurant's not going to make it because it's the details. The devil's in the details, and the guests like to see that you're going the extra mile to make sure they've had a good experience. And we do that day in, day out, every day. So I think that is one of the reasons that we were supported so heavily. And I also want to talk to you about something funny we did, if I have a second.
Oh, sure. I love funny.
So we also got a little bit bored during the whole shutdown. I mean, we didn't have to be at work until about 2, and sometimes the to-goes wouldn't pick up until about 5. So we are a couple of us, our bartender Joey, who's kind of like a local celebrity, and I and a few others started doing these TikToks on our Instagram and Facebook page.
Your Instagram videos were...
They're pretty hilarious. Yeah. So let me tell you, during the COVID shutdown, we quadrupled. No, actually more than that. Our social media presence grew by about 200%.
Really?
It's insane. And the amount of engagement we get on a weekly basis from these videos is outstanding. It's really, and it's fun. We've had a great time doing it. So, we'll do like Rick Springfield videos. And like one day our bartender did the Love Boat. But we just do these goofy videos and it's been really fun. So, and also
hilarious.
I think that, people need a little bit of levity in this time. Sure. It's just like all this bad news everywhere. So if they can, get on their feed, like our bartender Joey as Rick Springfield out in front of our sign, I think it was a little bit of levity. Yeah.
And you're in the background.
I am. I'm playing a little air guitar.
So you weren't getting on social media and trolling people and bad mouthing them and giving your
lifting people's spirits and having a great time.
We were trying to have some fun.
Oh, you're trying to make the world a better place.
Yes,
oh, imagine that.
Jake.
That's interesting.
That's our MO. Yes. Can I tell you? Well, okay, I'll just tell you. That's our mission. Whenever we have server meetings, that's the first thing I say to people, our staff, every single day. Like, guys, no matter what, we need to make everybody that walks in Palmer's feel like a rock star tonight because everybody's got stressful lives and they're choosing to spend their dollars at Palmer's. So let's make them feel good. Let's make them have a good time here and let's make them just be glad they came. So
I love that.
That's what we do.
Well, I've seen you in action, not just like today at lunch, but other times when I've been in. You walk through the restaurant, even at a distance today. You walk by, there were 3 guys at a table near the door, and you were like, "Hey, it's good to see you again." You weren't even near them, but you like shouted across because you made eye contact with one of the guys, and they were just happy. It like boosted their spirits just a little bit. Like, "Oh yeah, there's Ashley walking by, and she's busy," but you still took that moment just to give them a shout out and a hello, even though you're flying back and forth, running food and doing everything else.
Well,
she did the same thing with security when she saw you walk in. Interesting.
It's like Cheers, you know? They say, Norm.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. We're Peachtree City's version of Cheers.
Yeah. But anyways, I'm saying all that because I want to make sure that we're giving you guys the credit of running the type of business that you run. And for anybody in the area, you need to go to Palmer's. It's an amazing restaurant. But I think it's also really important for us to understand the fragility of the restaurant industry and how many people it employs. It's such an important part of this economy. And I was telling you, when we were in the studio getting ready to hit record, I've been trying to, since Georgia, quote unquote, reopened, and now you can go into the dining room of a restaurant, which it's been 6 weeks now, right?
I think May 1st is when Kemp relaxed the regulations, but not everybody opened right away.
Yeah, so maybe 4 or 5 weeks. Right. So since then, I've been trying to make it a point to go to lunch and dinner as much as I can to support businesses. And every time I go in, I try to find a manager or an owner. How are things going? Just really try to get a pulse on what's going on in the restaurant. A lot of people are telling me that if they can't open up 100% of their dining room and things don't change, they're not going to make it. Mm-hmm. And, I don't take the time to go into, well, tell me about your food cost as a percent of revenue, but I'm sure like all that stuff's coming into play right now. Sure. And I'm really worried about how fragile this sector of the economy is. And I don't know. I'm nervous.
Well,
should I be?
Well, absolutely. Like I just told you, I'm bracing myself. I'm bracing myself for the possibility of us having to shut down again, either due to government regulations or getting a sick employee. So yeah, it's precarious. We're in a precarious situation, and I, no different than retail. I mean, at least retail has the component of online shopping, or most retailers do. And we do have to go that we could always fall back on. But yeah, it's scary. Now there's going to be a lot of restaurants out there. I know I was just reading about a couple in Atlanta that are closed for good now that just couldn't make it through this. And I know there's probably some locally as well. So,
well, like you said, one of them actually, an employee had a case. They had to shut down. Then right after they reopened, they had a second case that hit. So that's 10 days of no revenue.
Well, and another thing that's happening, our bartender, Joey, also works at a restaurant in Atlanta, and people, they're completely understaffed because a lot of the staff doesn't want to come back. They say they don't feel comfortable coming back. So
now they're ready with their
they're getting their
checks.
Government checks.
I wasn't going to say that, but
we can say it.
You don't have to.
But they and that's happening with a lot of restaurants. A lot of restaurants are not able to even be open their full hours because they can't get the staff back in. So that's a really scary proposition as well.
It is. And the other thing that I find really interesting, and this is the thing that I think worries me the most. So I was reading an article about California last week, and it was on the restaurant industry. And in California, they have now started to allow restaurants to reopen. I think it happened right at the end of May.
Right, but now I think they're getting shut again.
Closed down
Probably.
Again.
Yeah.
But here's the crazy thing. We'll get to the second shutdown in a minute. But the regulations for them to reopen were absolutely bonkers. Uh-huh. It was, you can't open more than 25% of your tables. You have to take the temperature of every employee when they come into the building and after they come back from every break, and you have to have a log and you have to submit it to the Department of Health. You have to have, everybody wears masks. Yep. You have to have face shields. Your customers can, when they're at the table eating, they don't have to wear a mask, but when they get up and go to the bathroom, they have to go with a mask on. And if you get caught not doing that, you can be shut down by the health department.
And who even wants to go out to eat under those conditions?
Right.
What?
It's stupid.
Well, that's the thing. Like you want to go to a restaurant to relax and have fun. You don't want to. Yeah,
you don't go to the hospital to hang out. And, it's like everybody's all dressed up in doctor.
Yeah,
but it's crazy. I mean,
it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody picked up on my reference. Thank you very much, Mr. Winnie. But it's crazy because, and I'm just like, that's the tip of the iceberg. Like the amount of things that they have to do to comply. And then here's the thing that drives me batshit crazy. So you got the state regulations, then you've got the county regulations, then you've got the city or local ordinance regulations. And a lot of times in California, they conflict with each other. Mm-hmm. And it's like, well, which one do I do?
Right.
Yes. Yeah.
It is overwhelming. And the thing that drives me nuts, okay, and I'm going to be an optimist when I say this. I'm sure that people have everybody's best intentions and all that in mind when they're doing this stuff. But it's like these decisions are being made by people that have never worked in the restaurant industry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what's so weird to me, Jake, is that a lot of the regulations don't make any sense. For example,
all of them.
And listen, I've learned that my opinion doesn't matter. What we do at Palmer's is cater to the most fearful person. We respect everybody's level of comfort. So it doesn't matter what I think about it. But for example, the mandate that the restaurant workers have to wear masks. However, the guests, the patrons don't. So the patrons are all mingling on the patio and the restaurant staff all has masks on. So I'm thinking, how does that make sense? Are we the pariahs with the creepy COVID germs, and everybody else can just mingle? And
right.
So it's there's a lot of inconsistencies. But I understand the mask thing. I get.
But here's the common sense part of me.
It's like a buffet sneeze guard. That's what it really is. It's not protecting them from that. It's just regular germs. They don't want them sneezing on the food when they're carrying it.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Because we do that all the time. We sneeze on food all the time. What? I mean, really?
But here's the common sense side of me. Okay,
I saw a movie like that.
So if an employee comes in, hey, do you feel comfortable wearing a mask or not wearing a mask? I want to wear one. Okay, great, wear it. Or no, I don't. Okay, don't. You go up to a table. Would you guys like me to wear a mask or not wear a mask? Oh, you don't have to worry about the mask. Okay, thank God I can't breathe in a stupid thing. Yeah. Like, why can we not make these decisions? Because like you said, if patrons walk into the restaurant and they don't have masks on and somebody comes up and says, would you like me to wear a mask or not? Please take it off. I'd like to see your smile. I'd like to see who you are.
Yeah.
Well, that's
why can't I make that decision?
Yeah. Absolutely. It's crazy how many just like inconsistencies there are. Well, that's what, like, for example, I keep mentioning Joey, our bartender, but people come to Palmer's because they want to be entertained by Joey at the bar.
Hell yes.
And he's hilarious. He tells his trailer park stories from his upbringing in Missouri, and he makes everybody laugh all the time. And literally,
he makes the best mojitos.
He does from our mint garden out back. That's why, because it's fresh mint.
Does your mint garden have a mask on?
No, it doesn't. Yes.
That could be contaminated
when you're there,
mint.
ask for a Joey mojito.
But then you wouldn't be able to smell the mint if it had the mask on, right?
But really, there's a human bonding that goes on.
Absolutely.
When you're not wearing a mask.
And that's the thing. Like that's why I think people come to Palmer's, because they want to feel good, like I talked about before, and they want Joey to make them laugh. They want an escape from their life. So there were times where guests would ask Joey, "Can you please pull your mask down? I want you to make me laugh," and he does.
Exactly.
And, so that's just.
I said your mask, not your pants.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's Darren. That's
right.
Then they kicked me out.
Right. It didn't take long. It never does.
Typical Friday night at Palmer's. It just happened.
But seriously, why can we not get back to that level of common sense where
I think it will. Like the longer that this goes on. The longer that this goes on, people will become more educated on it. The general public will be more educated on it, and they're just gonna revolt. No, revolt. What's the word I'm looking for?
But
they're going to take all these
because
recommendations.
What if they turn around and they say, "We have these regulations for your business," and you go, "Well, screw you. We're going to do what we want." What's going to happen to you? I mean, if you guys...
Well, we wouldn't do that.
I know, but what I'm saying is, what would happen if your employees weren't wearing masks right now?
Well, lots of restaurants around Peachtree City, they're not wearing masks.
So it's not mandated.
Yeah, it's not mandated. We're doing it as a courtesy.
But that's the help.
It's a law. I mean, it's a very loose law. I don't really think people are getting fined for it, but we're going to do it just to be courteous to our guests.
But this is you're making an important point. You're supposed to wear them.
Right.
Not everybody is complying. That's the thing. What does that mean? Because, John and I were actually talking about this on the way over to the studio today. There's now talk about, a potential either statewide or even national requiring masks in public from everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, gosh.
If that happens, what happens if you don't comply?
Well,
you get a citation.
You've seen all the Karen videos, right? Of Karen getting in a fight in Trader Joe's and people, which I think that's a little bit ridiculous. If you don't really believe in masks and a store makes you wear a mask, just put the damn mask on. Honestly, or just don't go in the store.
Go to a store that doesn't require it. Because that's the whole thing. Like, let people and businesses make decisions that and look, if you as a business say everybody has to wear a mask in here and then you go out of business, well,
Yeah, that's a free market.
I am super annoyed by all the mask shamers, though, because it's not law in Georgia right now. So guess what? If someone in the grocery store is next to you and they don't have a mask on, like, don't shame them or vice versa. Like, let everybody just do what they want to do.
Social distance. Get away from them. If you're that concerned.
Right. Yes. Or get Instacart. Like, if you don't want to go to the grocery, then don't go to the grocery. Yeah.
That's
just
my whole
pull
thing.
up in the parking lot. They'll load it in your truck for you.
Yeah.
Like, if you're that worried about it, why are you going out anyways?
It's insane how polarizing this whole issue has been.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because common sense has gone out the window.
Yeah. No, I know. Critical thinking skills have gone out the window. I totally agree. But.
Because we talked about this in the last episode we did. There was a period of time when my mother-in-law had cancer and she was on chemo. And if she so much as caught a cold, she was, that was a death sentence.
Right.
So we were like really like wound up about it. We wore masks and gloves around her. We didn't go places we didn't need to. We really isolated ourselves for that period where she was at her most vulnerable. That was our responsibility, right?
That's right.
If right now you're that worried, like, then do those things yourself. Don't impose that on others.
Yeah. Don't look to the government to take care of things for you.
Because they do a really good job.
You can't legislate human behavior.
How do you really feel,
Jake?
I'm frustrated. Can you tell? But here's the thing. This is a crazy thing about the restaurant industry. Take COVID and put that aside for a minute. You guys are regulated like crazy.
Oh, well, absolutely. But that's a good thing.
It is.
Have you ever been through had a food inspector come in?
We have every morning we do it. We have an exhaustive checklist that we check every single food temperature. We check every single cooler for the temperature. We check the food on the line for temperature. We are like, that's just part of the restaurant business.
And I get it. And I think that all that stuff is well intentioned.
Right. But now it's on top of all that. We have all these logs and we have a COVID temperature log at our restaurant, and we have a COVID surface sanitation log where we log every time we wipe down a surface, which is about every 25 minutes. And
but doing all that stuff doesn't cost you any time or money.
She almost spit out her beer.
Well, it doesn't.
That's one of the best responses we've ever had on the podcast.
It doesn't cost us any money, except for the cost of my binder and the thermometer. But it definitely costs us time. But
people's time is free.
Listen,
you don't have to pay your employees.
Listen, I'll tell you this. Here's what I tell our staff.
She's trying to maintain. She's like, these sons of bitches.
Yeah, come on, guys, stay on topic.
We're here. We're with you.
The fact that
here's what I tell the staff.
Ashley talks with her hands because right now the boom stand, the mic stand is getting her way. She's
knocked
like
it
reaching
off?
over it and talking.
No, that was just so I could have a sip of the Line Creek Honey Blonde. No, I tell my staff too, in addition to make everyone feel like a rock star, every day I tell them that trust is the new hospitality. And again, like I said, it doesn't matter how I feel about the whole thing. It matters what our most fearful guest thinks about the whole thing. And that's who we need to cater to. And since trust is the new hospitality, people, you call it in the restaurant business touching a table in prior days, pre-COVID. And touching a table just means how many people actually interact with that guest and make that guest feel like a quote unquote rock star. And that used to be as many as you possibly could, because we want that guest to feel so awesome and like they are a rock star.
Sure.
But no one wants you to touch their table anymore. So trust is the new hospitality. So trust involves wearing masks, wearing gloves, wiping down surfaces, wiping down menus. So we do all this, and we actually make a show of doing it. I'm embarrassed to say, but I'm not actually, because they want to see that. The guests want to see that we are careful, and we are careful. We are taking temperatures every day. We are wiping everything down. So we are sanitizing like I've never.
But here's the thing. So let me tell you why this really irritates the living shit out of me. Okay.
Go.
Which part?
In the whole thing. Okay. In my business.
What is
when did you bring your soapbox up here? When did you sneak the soapbox?
It usually finds itself in here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the previous podcasts I've listened to in Beer and Business, there's been a Jake's soapbox.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's your show.
I'm in real estate, right? There's no, guidelines, or there's no, legislation about what we should or shouldn't do. But we're in contact with people all the time.
I mean, during COVID.
During COVID,
you guys
right?
have your own regulations.
Yeah,
that's what we're talking about.
Zoom closings.
I'm just making sure there could be somebody like me.
Real estate's heavily regulated.
So we need to make sure.
But during COVID, there hasn't been anything that's come out that says you need to do this, you can't do that, all that kind of stuff, like there has been for restaurants. Okay.
Right.
I come in contact with a lot of people, and we're actually in closer proximity than a lot of other businesses because, you're walking into small houses with people and
you're in like a 2x2 bathroom with somebody, right?
Yes, it just happened to me the other day. We're like
benefits,
shoulder to shoulder in a hallway. Like, oh my gosh,
did you cough?
Hope you're not sick.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, there hasn't been that same level of here's what you can do and can't do. But what we have done is we have asked people from the very beginning, since all this stuff started, would you prefer that we wear a mask? Not, do you want a handshake? Not handshake? Like,
right.
And what we find is people appreciate that. It's reasonable. Most of the time, people are like, no, I'll shake your hand. We don't need masks. We're fine. Some people do prefer it. Okay, no problem. But we're getting through it just using common sense and communicating with one another.
Right.
Right. I feel like that's the new cultural norm. For example, people come in Palmer's all the time and they, people that I've been hugging for 4 years and they look at me and they say, are you a hugger? Are you hugging? And I'm like, of course I'm hugging. Bring it in.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's just going to be the way it is now. Yeah. Which I appreciate that. That's great. That's how it should be.
With
like,
that.
Let's respect everybody, but let's also come to an agreement. Like, hey, we're cool.
I know.
Yeah. Bring it in.
I got irritated yesterday. It wasn't their fault, but it was their comfort level.
Settle in, guys.
And I was like, okay. And all of a sudden, I got this motion. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm not even doing that.
Ooh, the elbow bump?
Don't even give me the fucking elbow bump, okay?
Yeah.
It's either yes or
nothing.
no.
Yeah, give me the liberty or give me death. Don't give me the freaking elbow bump. It's like dabbing.
I'm out.
Okay,
I'm out.
Get the fuck out of there.
Aaron's face is red right now.
I know.
He's pissed.
Handshake,
I'm
hug,
with him.
or nothing. That's it. Handshake, hug,
absolutely.
or nothing.
Human contact is essential.
Anybody who's around me, now
maybe
they know.
we should get T-shirts made, Darren.
My favorite.
Handshake, hug, or nothing.
Yes, I think that's a
Boom.
great slogan. The Darren
like
Flanagan slogan. I like
It's the first smart thing he's ever said on the podcast.
Damn, let me write that down.
I know.
Timestamp that back.
No, you know my favorite is the fist bump. It's like, oh no, but we'll fist bump. It's like our hands just touched.
They did.
Like,
Yeah.
what the-
It does. Well, again,
And actually,
it's
the new
all-
way to
there's-
pee during COVID, it's the whole knuckle.
Okay, are we talking about
you
pee again,
serious?
guys? I thought we were
Did
done
he just
talking
say
about
that?
pee.
We're never done.
You
talking
already
about
talked
peeing.
about
It's
this for like 10
Darren
minutes.
Flanagan.
He just said that.
You should probably warn your next guest that there might be
Oh my gosh.
some pee talk that goes on a little too long.
No, right before somebody wants to like knuckle bump, you just kind of.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Folks, Darren Flanagan, just send him your email. I don't want to see it. I really don't.
Wow.
No. Anyway, you're dealing with that with your clients, your customers, your patrons. They come in, they're used to you giving them a hug. You're a hugger.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
so
you respect what
absolutely. And like
know.
I said, we respect everybody depending on where they are. So honestly, like I typically have a bandana around or a scarf around my neck. And when I approach somebody that I know they don't want me, when I know probably 80% of the people that come in Palmer's just because they come in all the time. When I see somebody I know, I don't pull it up because I know they don't want me to.
Mm-hmm.
But whenever I approach someone either that I don't know or that has a mask on, I immediately pull it up out of respect. So again, I meet people where they are, and I think that's kind of what you said.
And you know what?
Yeah.
If that's where we're at culturally, I'm fine with it. What I really struggle with is the mandating and the
Absolutely.
legislation.
I agree.
And
You can't legislate human behavior.
You really can't. You can try, but it never works.
Right.
And it's funny to me, there's always these talk about, oh, well, there's a problem. We'll just pass a law. And it's like, okay, we're passing laws for, that's a whole different topic. But it's like people, when you talk about let's talk about criminals. Let's pass another gun law, for example. It's like, well, they broke all the laws that were there before. What makes you think they're going to follow this one?
Yeah.
It would be like trying to pass a law that said no public official is allowed to tweet.
Yeah, that would be a great law.
Frankly,
Yes.
that would be bad. Okay, I wouldn't like that.
Hugely
It would be
hugely bad.
It would be terrible. Frankly, okay.
Sometimes we have to feed him a bone.
He's got that down.
Yeah,
He
That's
does.
pretty
Yeah.
good. Take that show on the road, Jake.
I wake up in the middle of the night and think about Trump. I don't know why.
Yeah, well,
It's
he
just
gives
weird.
you a lot of good materials.
Yes, he
so,
does. It never stops.
Thank you for that. Yes, I think
Billions and billions of things.
comedians are going to have a dry spell
I know.
when Trump is out of office.
I know. I really want him to stay in for that reason alone. But yeah, it's just I worry about the legislation because gosh, I mean, first of all, you got people writing this stuff, like going back to California, the state, the counties, the local ordinances. Mm-hmm. None of these guys are talking to each other. They're writing stuff and they've never been in the business.
Yeah.
And, how do you execute on that? Why can't we have a little bit more common sense in this? I mean, is it too much to ask? Is it too much to ask to let people make their own decisions in terms of what they're comfortable with?
That's what I'm saying. The longer this goes on, the more educated people will be, and they're just going to make their own decisions, and they're not going to listen to these talking heads in government that are just trying to tell them what to do. They're like, no, I know what. Well, there you go. Then there is that.
Yeah, and I think
I was agreeing with you. I thought it was a decent example.
No, it wasn't good.
No.
That was about taxes, Darren.
A for effort.
Still was about regulations.
Yeah.
Bad reference, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, the problem that I have with this, just at a fundamental level, right? You got everybody that's, first of all, we're all at each other's throats on social media. I mean, it's just, it's terrible, even before COVID. So
Unless you hit the Palmer's Instagram, then you're just going to see Joey,
kinds of fun.
Joey singing a little Angel is a Centerfold.
Right. But, the
Jay Giles Band.
Angel is a Centerfold. That's a great song.
That is a good song.
See?
But it's just, it to me, I'm pouring another Line Creek here and it looks delicious.
Which one are you drinking there?
Conserve Georgia once again. Because you guys won't share the IPAs.
I'm hooked on the chinchillin.
Just killed
You're drinking on my IPAs.
This is the last one.
You guys are going to have a pyramid pretty soon with all these beers you're throwing back.
We've done it before.
I've built pyramids during the show.
Sean does it during the show all the time.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let me switch gears.
Got a problem with that?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay, so
no judgment in my tone at all.
Between you and I,
yes,
Jake, we have a little more freedom with our work. I mean, I do have people coming in here. John, you're back to work now in an office environment.
Sure.
Ish.
Do
And you guys have certain regulations?
Just because it's Mr. Winnie.
Sure. No, we can only have half as many people in the office. We have to social distance. That's part of the deal they worked out or whatever. We don't have to wear masks at work if we maintain social distancing. So we literally have half the amount of people in the office.
Did they open up new space down the way or something? Or
no, we have a separate facility that if we have too many people show up for work.
So if there's an employment, if an employee
this is the parking lot, and this is where you'll be working today.
Yeah, and they've given everybody work from home equipment, laptops and monitors and computers and stuff like that. But yeah, the office is empty. It's like a ghost town. It's kind of.
I know. I was talking to somebody else, and they said that about the parking lot. They're like, we can't even park in this lot anymore. We have to park somewhere else. And
and think about how that's also affecting back to restaurants, guys. I don't mean to be a narcissist, but
you should.
Yeah.
It's all about why we invited you on.
Yeah, right. No, but think about how that's affecting all the restaurants in College Park. Like, for example, the Break Pad on Main Street. I mean,
I love the Break Pad.
Is awesome.
Oh my gosh, I've eaten there so much.
But all of the Delta I mean, think about how many fewer people this whole work from home thing is just affecting so many restaurants in those areas tremendously. Yep. So
there are so many restaurants that cater to a business.
And that's all over Atlanta, all over the country. And that's just going to be that's another thing that's adding to the attrition rate of these restaurants is all these business people. The only good thing that's come from all this is that you can whiz through 75, 85 in about 15 minutes, from the airport up to 400. But
that has been.
I'm just trying to think about how many restaurants, all these little, like you mentioned, the Break Pad. They're tiny restaurants. Like if you had to social distance in the Break Pad, I mean, it's an old garage.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it was a gas station.
There'd be 4 people.
Right. And that's one of the things that
in there.
Yeah. That's one of the things that I was talking about earlier. These restaurants that I go into that have tables packed in tightly because 5% is the average. Remember, an average, there's a range. So some restaurants are operating on 2% margin.
Yeah, well, that's because they're not really calculating their food costs very well. But still,
and I'm not. Not every restaurant owner is a good business person, right?
Right.
That doesn't mean I want them to go out of business because if the only reason why they're going out of business is because somebody yanked the rug out from under them. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, if somebody figured out how to make a living and have a restaurant that's been open for 10 years, operating on 2% margin, I got no problem with that.
Kirby G's still open?
Yeah, they're still open.
Okay, good.
But if somebody yanks the rug out from under you, and your 2% business model can't survive,
it's devastating.
That's not fair.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely devastating. Yeah. No, and then the regulations are just going to keep coming. Yeah, it's devastating.
So you were worried.
And think about, like, I'm so grateful that we have such a big patio because our patio was already spread out. And again, I think people's level of comfort is much higher outside. But I think about these tiny restaurants that have no outdoor space, and you know, like in Brookhaven and a lot of like they've actually turned parking lots into outdoor
patios.
dining. Yeah, so like permits have been issued and they've allowed them to do that. But
am I allowed to sit in the handicap spot, or do
I need to have a special tag for that? Yeah,
just making sure I don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah, your walker is your tag. But I went to
I went with Darren. It's okay.
Yeah,
Bring me along.
The white hair qualified. Yeah,
bring him along.
But I also think that I was at a fine dining restaurant in Atlanta last night, and I looked around, and it was very sparse, and I made a comment to the person I was with, how fine dining, just like during the recession of 2008, fine dining is what really took the hit. And I feel like that's going to happen again. I feel like fine dining is going to take the hit because, you know, I know restaurants in New York, like 11 Madison Park, which is one of the top 10 restaurants in the world, is not reopening. Because the owner said, I can't, in good conscience, with all this going on, charge people $400 a head right now. And he also said, the cost of reopening this restaurant right now, after I've been shut down for 2 or 3 months, is astronomical. And I just think about all the other fine dining restaurants where food is art, where it's, you know, $150 tasting menu, which is, it's going to be almost impossible for them to survive. Whereas, I mean, the thing about Palmer's is you can get in there for $20 if you can have dinner for $20 if you want. You can get in and out. So even though our community, because we're so airline heavy, is probably going to be affected. I know that Peachtree City residents do have a lot of discretionary income in relation to other communities, but we are airline heavy.
Well, you bring up a good point about fine dining.
I've never walked out of there paying less than $20 at Palmer's.
That's because your alcohol bill is
those Catcher in the Bullet Ryes are.
That's what it was.
Those will get you every time, Darren.
Yes.
Damn it. But you can get a Lion Creek beer for about $7. So
and a hell of an appetizer too.
Yeah.
But you bring up a good point about fine dining, because the thing with fine dining is it's just as much about the experience as it is the food.
Yes,
right?
yes.
And what a fucking drag to go out somewhere and it's dead because nobody's in there.
And then
people are wearing masks. Yeah, it's just like...
It kills the vibe. Oh,
absolutely.
Totally. Yeah, and like the fun bar, like you go for the experience. And you go for the food as art element, but you also go for the experience. And I totally agree. It kills... It definitely dampers the experience just a bit.
I mean, every once in a while, I want to take my wife out to a really nice, restaurant. I don't care if I pay $500 for an amazing night if it's all about the experience.
Well, and like I don't know, as a woman, I like to half the fun of going to a fun restaurant in Atlanta is getting dressed up and looking cute. Okay, and then throw a mask on there. How does that figure in? It kind of kills the vibe.
If you're wearing the right mask that matches,
right? Which
color.
is
no, Darren.
Yes, put
I don't care what kind of fetish you've got going on right now. I'm not into it.
Take notes from Nancy Pelosi's playbook, I guess. On your
wow.
Ding.
That's awesome.
Very well done. But
coming out swinging.
I did
in this corner.
I did see a Tiger King face mask the other day.
Oh no! Was it made from their underwear that they couldn't sell? Covers up here nice, but it goes down to a.
Anyway,
but the longer this goes on, I think I'm ready to go just full libertarian. Like screw this. No, you don't have. I mean, we've known people that have gotten it and it's gotten COVID and it's like the flu and I know a lot of people have died, but it's like a lot of people die from the flu every year. So.
Well, the point that you're making though is like there's the world on the news, and then there's the world that we're living in, and it feels like it couldn't be any different.
Exactly.
Because I mean, right now I was playing this game with a couple of people the other day. It's like, who do you know? Who do you know personally that got it?
It's like 6 degrees of separation.
Right. Well, I know a guy that knew a guy that had it.
But they're not sure if he died from that or if he was taking steroids or whatever.
He had it, but he's alive.
Not even died, just had it. I mean, it's like it's all this hearsay and conjecture and third party stuff.
Sure.
And I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I'm just saying that it's whoa, Mr. Winning.
Sorry.
I'm
getting all fired up.
He is.
Well, let's talk about another business, hospitals, right?
Right.
I read an article the other day because they were all up in arms because hospitals are at 97% capacity. And the doctor.
Which ones?
Yeah.
Well, no, the doctor said, well, this time last year, they were at 95% capacity. That's how you run a business. If hospitals are empty, they don't make money and they close.
Right.
So that's how they operate. They operate at as much capacity as they can.
When they
But
shut down
what was the point that
three-quarters
it
of the
was-
hospital and they only have one quarter open just for the COVID
No,
stuff.
it was
and
just
it's at
like, oh my gosh.
97% capacity.
Right. Oh my gosh, we're at 97. We're about to go over capacity. It's like, no, wait a second. This is normal.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's not like
how they make
like any business.
money.
Like you don't run a business to have a deficit of capacity.
Correct.
Then it's not efficient. It's closest to the pin.
Yes.
It'd be like Ashley going, oh my goodness, we're at 95% capacity.
Yeah.
And
Let's
last
double
year we
the
were
size of the
97.
restaurant so half of it can stay empty.
Right.
That's a great business model.
Yeah.
Well, and there's definitely like there's definitely some sensationalism going on in the media, which
Just a little
just to
bit.
state the obvious.
Darren's
Well, I
peeing right
love
now.
the,
That's what he's doing.
great.
He's getting up to
Thank
go
you.
pee.
That TMI.
No, he's getting. I
but
spilled some Lion Creek beer.
He's gonna use that as a reason to go pee. This is what he does. Like, Mr. Winnie spilled some beer, so let me get a napkin and then pee.
No, he's right back.
You're seriously not going to pee?
Don't need to.
Are you feeling okay, dude?
Feeling wonderful.
Have you had surgery or anything like that?
Is this what
Are you a
dudes, Is this what
robot?
dudes
I
talk
got a-
about?
I
No,
got a
this
shot.
guy pees like crazy. He's all the
really?
time. Like, how many times we've been like in the middle of a great
Well,
conversation?
he's well hydrated. He hydrates himself.
No, like somebody will be answering Darren's question, like talking directly to him,
Right.
and he'll just get up and go pee.
Oh, great.
It's
Well,
like, and then they'll look at me like, what just happened? Like, oh, he's peeing.
yeah, this is just
figured
a
it's a-
thing.
it's a-
Yeah.
I figured I asked them a question. They have a long answer. It's a perfect time. Well, they'll still be answering the question by the time I get back.
It's Darren, folks.
We
those
have
show
talked about that, Ashley, in their defense, more than usual. We don't talk about pee that much.
We don't.
Yeah, this is
Good to know.
kind of a different day. I don't know.
Good to know. I'm glad I could be here for it.
Yeah, don't you feel
It's stimulating conversation.
you probably feel
Yeah.
really special, don't you?
I do.
So, you said earlier you're worried about another wave. You're worried about another potential shutdown. I'm worried about that too. I'm also worried about the markets that haven't reopened yet because there's still so many states and cities and areas that have not allowed. Like, people talk about
I can't
Georgia.
even imagine. I cannot even imagine. I was talking to my daughter today about college towns. I don't even like. I can't. I read an article about Ithaca, New York, and between Ithaca College and Cornell, like what is it? Like 80% of their whole economy is based on the colleges.
It's
and
the college.
Yeah, and if they don't go back again, these towns are bankrupt. And I mean, you look at Athens, Georgia. Shuttered retail businesses on the cute little downtown. All these towns, Oxford, Mississippi. If they don't go back this year, it's going to be catastrophic. There are going to be bankruptcies in all of these cute little college towns. So it's really sad.
So what are you and your business partners doing in case this happens again? Have you put in any stopgaps any precautions that okay, we're going to bat down the hatches and we're going to get through this because we got to open back up again. This community really needs us.
Well, I mean, as I talked about, Darren, we're one of our partners. Well, we're all pretty smart with our money, so we have a cushion. So if we have to close for to-goes again, we'll just do what we have to do.
For
And
another 2 months.
yeah, and
we'll
I believe the community will support us, and we'll just do what we have to do. And I believe we'll come out on the other side. I believe we've been smart enough about our business that we will come out on the other side. It's just, I've realized during this period we have no control. Like it's funny how we as Americans used to think we had so much control over our destiny. Well, I think what this has taught us all is that we don't. We're kind of pawns or puppets. It's like we have to do whatever we're told. And I don't know if any of you guys watch The Handmaid's Tale. Probably not, because most guys don't. But I remember.
I don't even know what it is.
Oh, really? It's on Hulu. It's a great show. It was a book, Margaret
There's
Atwood.
a lot
and
of women right
it was
now
a
who
show.
are excited. You can continue.
Is that like
going.
Steel Magnolias or
Yeah,
something?
but no, it's a great show. It was based on a book by Margaret Atwood, and I think the show was actually even better than the book. Sorry, Margaret, but it was about this like dystopian society where this like far right government takes over and these people lose all their freedoms. And I remember watching this several years ago thinking, God, that could never happen. That could never happen to us. And they would do all these flashbacks to normal times when they could like go to restaurants and they were normal people. And again, watching it several years ago, you thought, no way. And I was having a picnic in Piedmont Park with my daughter back in April when everything was still shut down. And we were sitting there having a picnic and we said, gosh, remember when we used to be able to go to restaurants, and that's just so weird. And it made me realize, like, I feel like we're living that reality to some degree. Like it's made me realize we have so little control over our destiny. And so we're just, as a business owner, we're just kind of a pawn. We're waiting to find out what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. And we might have to shut down, and that's going to be a bummer. But guess what? We're resilient and we're going to power through it, and we're just going to adapt. I think the whole key word during this whole time is just to adapt. There's no point in sitting around bitching about it. You just have to do what you have to do for your business. And you just hope you've been smart enough with your money to be able to survive.
Well said.
Thank you.
You look like you're about to have a corn here.
John's thinking. He's really thinking.
Just the whole personal liberty, freedom thing. I get all fired up about that because they don't really have the power to.
Well, they do. And they do. And they
actually,
we never gave it to the government.
Actually, they don't.
Well,
if you really go down now, we don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but
it's a big one.
Yeah, it is. But they really don't. And 99% of this is people willing to do what they need to do for the common good. We want to keep each other healthy. We don't want to.
I think I think going back to the beginning of this thing, and this is what Darren and I talked about, in the last episode. You go back to early March when all this stuff really started to unfold. We were going off information that we thought that there was going to be millions of people that die from this.
Sure, yeah.
And that turned out to not be true in a very, very big way.
Mm-hmm.
British doctor at
I remember
college.
you talking about this in your previous podcast.
Right.
Yeah,
and so it's like we did all these things on the assumption that this pandemic was so serious that there was going to be millions dead. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not the case. The
death rate is a fraction of 1%, which is what's so startling.
Right. It's and that's if you even trust the data, which I don't. But even if it was true, still, it's like, this is.
But if they really came down to it, I mean, the right to peaceably assemble is enshrined in the Constitution.
Peaceably
assemble.
Mm-hmm.
Right. If this goes on longer, I mean, there's gonna be there will be small businesses or large businesses that say, "Hey, we need to assemble. We need to," and it's not justified. This is my personal opinion. It's not justified, and they will take it to court.
Amazon won't do anything because their numbers have spiked over this whole thing.
Exactly, yeah.
There's more Amazon trucks running around than they're running.
Yeah, and there's winners and losers in this. And, Palmer's has been winners in this because you guys run a great business. You really do. And, in any industry, you have really good, you have good, you've got mediocre, you've got bad, you've got really bad. That's in every industry, whether it's restaurants, whether it's,
doctors,
right? Yeah. I've had some really bad ones.
Yeah.
Co-working spaces, Darren. There's some really bad, corrupt ones.
There are.
Any industry, there's all ranges. But the problem is, in a case where, we've got external forces that will take entire industries and put them in pressure to where, maybe half of them don't survive. Mm-hmm. That's a shock to the system that I don't even know that we're capable of handling.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Guys, it's just like you think about how many industries are devastated by this. Think about tourism. Something like New York City got $16 billion a year from Broadway. Mm-hmm. And Broadway is shut down through the rest of this year. Think about the tourism. Think about the tourism dollars that these cities are not getting from European to
countries.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Look at Ireland.
The hotels. Hotels are at 20% capacity. It's absolutely, it's staggering to think that how much this has brought our economy to its knees and so many industries its knees.
As far as the airline business goes, it's like not a wave, but like a whip. We call it a whip. Mm-hmm. It takes years for all this stuff to really come to fruition. I mean, just all the American airlines shutting down all international travel. It's not just the domestic employees. I mean, there are hundreds of thousands of employees around the world that do everything for the air, like you said, hotels, but there's catering for all the ground handling.
Yeah.
I mean, entire industries in other countries just based on tourism and airline travel, just to service, and they're shut down right now. I mean, it's going to take years for all this stuff to sort itself out, and then you try to build. You're going to have to rebuild. I mean, because like a lot of those employees are just going to leave. You're going to lose all those skill sets, and we're going to see the devastation from this.
Oh, it's going to be a ripple effect. Absolutely.
Ripple effect. Yeah. Thank you. For years.
And concerts. Think about musicians. What?
I don't give a shit about that.
Come on. God, no. It's crazy.
A good concert is awesome.
Not just the musician, but think about all the other companies, the concessions, all the other companies that are tied in, the AV.
Right. The roadies,
just everything. I was talking to a guest at Palmer's today, and she plans music festivals on cruise ships. I'm like, well, that's a double whammy. That sucks.
So business is booming, huh?
Yeah, right.
So what did you do with your English degree from college?
So one of the things,
liberal arts degree got me this.
One of the things that I think is really important about having you on today, Ashley, is I want people to understand how challenging it is to be in the food service industry. And you guys are what I would consider best of the best in terms of operators and branding. And, just you guys have nailed your customer experience, and you're making it through this. And you were smart before too. You had cash reserves and all this stuff. And you guys are in the food industry, I think, unicorns. You guys have done it all right. So many other businesses are really, really struggling through this. And the message that I want people to hear is that this is very, very hard. Just normal operating any business at 5%. Have fun with that.
Yeah.
Good luck. You got to be really good just to survive. But then you layer on COVID and all this crazy stuff, and then some states worse than others. Now is a really good time to support restaurants.
Support your local restaurants, guys. Yes, absolutely.
It is so critical. I've talked to people about this. They're like, well, I
do.
Yeah, I mean, I get really passionate about this, and I try not to get upset with people. But it's like, I hear people say things like, well, they'll be fine, or, I'm worried about myself. It's like, if you're worried about yourself, you need to be worried about others. Like, you're going to eat, right? Your grocery stores, I don't know that there's really been any, if anything, they've probably done better under this.
Absolutely.
Support your restaurants. Get out there. Right. Even if you don't feel comfortable sitting in the dining room, get takeout.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even more importantly, no offense, Ashley, but we need to support our local microbreweries.
Definitely.
Please.
Yes.
If the microbrewers start to go, Mr. Winnie may not make it through this.
This is Armageddon.
I'm pretty sure alcohol intake has gone up exponentially.
I can attest to that.
And I will tell you a funny thing about, I shared this with Darren today when I saw him at Palmer's for lunch. The COVID diet has definitely not been a healthy one. We cracked up when I'd be packing up to-go boxes. It was all burgers and tater tots. We sold, honestly,
and whiskey.
guys.
Quarantinis.
We sold more tater tots during the shutdown in our limited capacity than we did at normal operations. Like, what is it about tater tots in a pandemic?
It's comfort food.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We were buying very little lettuce. Our salads were not flying off the rack.
Lettuce doesn't make you feel good.
No,
but our tots were
our burgers and tots.
I want burgers and
that was the
mac
hot
and
ticket.
cheese. And,
yes.
yeah.
That's another thing. We were doing family style meals for a while, and people really appreciated it. But my partner Billy had this one idea to do a smoked brisket mac and cheese, and ew, I'm like, Billy, that sounds disgusting.
Oh my God. What the hell? I'm sitting here salivating.
We still have it's sold out.
So
I
good.
still get emails about that smoked brisket mac and cheese. Like, what the heck? People are still asking us to bring that smoked brisket mac and cheese back. So, anyways,
that is stoner food.
Yeah, totally.
Right there.
Yes.
Give me tater
Smoke
tots
on, people. Yeah,
brisket
have
mac
another
and
bong
cheese.
hit. Yeah.
It reheats so
I don't
well and
need
tastes
to
good in the
smoke
microwave.
pot to want that.
Brisket mac and cheese. No, I don't need weed for
It's
that.
like
Just give me
two beautiful things brought together. that weren't there before. I'm in.
Yeah, it's kind of like tater tot nachos. I mean, hello.
What, do you do that too?
Yeah.
Dude,
Put it on the friggin' menu. I'm ordering
On
that.
special occasions.
right after the podcast?
Yes.
That's where we're going.
Yeah.
Tater tot nachos?
Just for the VIPs.
I'll
Yeah.
tell you, their brisket nachos.
Oh, they're good.
Yeah.
Yes.
You got to get them.
So we need to support restaurants. I think it's been great hearing your perspective on things too, because I want people to understand how difficult it is for the industries that have been, adversely impacted by this, because there's a lot of small businesses that I don't know that they really felt a hit. Construction around here has been crazy. Mm-hmm. All the trades, they were essential. I've got friends in the trades that I'm busier than ever because not only were we doing okay, but now you got people sitting at home. It's like, I just noticed that crack in the drywall.
Yeah, man.
And I got to get that fixed. Shit.
Man, my deck looks really bad.
I know. I keep tripping over it because I'm drinking so much bourbon on my on my COVID diet.
My wife's been staying at home with me for the past 2 months, and she realizes that I let this house go to pot. I don't want to fix it.
So
hey, can you come fix this for me?
So there's a lot of businesses that have done really, really well. They've actually done better under COVID, but there are like the restaurant industry, travel, tourism, airlines, some have just been really devastated. Mm-hmm. And we, to the extent that we are comfortable, because I'm not telling anybody to do anything they're not comfortable with, but if you're comfortable, go to lunch, go to dinner, get a drink while you're out, spend a little extra money. Don't hoard it. We got to keep a community or an economy is a system. It is an ecosystem. There's so many moving, intricate pieces, right? You got to keep it going.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Well, thanks for that shout out. I and all the other
and go to Palmer's, damn it.
Well, go to Palmer's, go to Curious Pig, go to Due South, go to Grinds and Wines, go to all your local spots because we are lucky to have so many great spots in Peachtree City. So
yeah, we really are. Well, I really appreciate you coming in and sharing that with us. This has been enlightening for me just to talk to somebody that's gone through it. And I'm glad that we brought somebody in that's been successful because I like to hear a good success story. And I think it gives people hope, right? You're going through this and it's tough already.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody that's in a tough spot has to fail. There's ways to get through it and you guys are figuring it out. So if you're out there and you're struggling, just know that, there's a way. There's always a way.
We just have to be masters of adaptation.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think this has been helpful. And if you are inspired and you are motivated, go out to dinner right now.
But go to a local
That's
place.
it.
Right now. Okay.
Do
it. Right now.
Get some huge brisket nachos.
Now we've got way more Trumps in the studio than we need.
Yours is still the best, Jake.
Frankly, okay. No, excuse me. I'm still talking. Okay. I agree. Okay.
Not going to do it. Not going to do it. Would be prudent at this.
We need multiple presidents in the room.
Juncture.
So where is Palmer's? For those that are in the area, how do they get to the restaurant?
Right down
Palmer's is basically on the corner of Highway 74 and Peachtree Parkway. Right next to, right in front of Kedron Tire, our great friends at Kedron Tire that let all of our patrons park there at night. Thank you, Kedron Tire.
Thank you.
Right next to Wells Fargo in the Kroger Shopping Center in North Peachtree City. So check us out. We got a great patio and trust is the new hospitality and we are keeping you safe, wiping down every surface.
And if you're in Atlanta where they're still like really, really tight on opening stuff, it's not a long drive.
Yeah.
So just come down 85.
Honestly, yeah, we got a great patio, guys. We've got the only patio in Peachtree City that's not in a parking lot. So.
Booyah. Listen to that.
Yeah, that's our plug.
Yeah, so, all you got to do is come down 74 South and you'll run right into it. So.
Just get the fried green tomato appetizer with the bacon jelly jam or the bacon jam
jelly. The candied bacon jam.
Candied bacon jam.
And if you mention Beer and Business Podcast, drinks around the house.
There you go. Yes. And we'll send the bill to you.
Oh, look at that.
It didn't work out.
Actually, you can pay your own bill. I think it's the Beer and Business special.
Good. Yeah.
I tried.
If you mention the Beer and Business Podcast,
you get
your normal price.
All
right, so there you go.
We'll make you feel like a rock star.
Yes. They'll make you feel good and you'll tip really good because you're one of our listeners.
There you go.
Yes.
That's right.
Thank you, Ashley. We really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me. This was a blast, guys.